Hello once again, our most valued student. My name is Confident and welcome to the continuation of the revision session. This is the Gauteng paper and the provincial examination this November 2022. Some of you guys will recall that I did already part 1 and of this mathematics paper 1. It's a 2-hour paper, so what we've done, we have already looked at the first questions, which is question number 1 here in the previous video. So we did look at question number 1, which was out of 22 marks, is algebra, and we looked at question number 2, also is algebra, it's equations. We went on to look at question number 3, so that is where we ended in question number 3, which was number patterns or sequences, but number patterns is proper for grade 10. As you can see, we're doing some working here, so let me take off this. Now we are continuing, as I promised, to look at question number 4, and then we'll continue question number 4, which is graphs in here. As you can see, this is question number 4 for this video. We will continue 19 marks graphs. Question number 5 again is on graphs, which is 10 marks, and then we continue to look at question number 6, which is what? Which is financial maths. And then question number 7 is probability, and then that's the end of this. So I just want you to stay tuned. This one won't take longer because most of the questions are short questions, but you need to pay attention because there are some tricky questions that can actually take you off grid. So I would like you to pay attention. Remember, the video will be longer, but you must break it into 24 minutes so that you can understand better. Now, question number 4. Without wasting time, let's look at this. Here we are looking at question number 4, and with question number 4, it says the sketch below shows the graph of f of x is equal to that a to the power x minus 3 and g of x is minus 4 over x minus 4. And then so let's look at these graphs here. These are the two graphs. You can see the graph of f here. This is the graph of f. It goes all the way and then it stops there, and usually we call these lines the lines of asymptotes. So this is the line where this graph will never pass. As well as the graph of g, you can see it's going all the way down. It has got its own line, which is called also another line of asymptote. And then these are lines that these graphs will never pass. We call them the line of what? Of asymptotes. And then there's point A here, and then we have got is a point on the graph of f, and B, you can see point B on G. C is the intercept of the graphs. Remember, intercept, where the graph casts the x-axis there. Now let's look at the questions. Question number 4.1. It says write down 4.1.1 the domain of f. Now domain are what? You must always know such words. If they say to you, you need to find the domain. Domain are x values. Okay, so the moment they say domain, they are talking about x values. Let me not write much. And then when they say range, look at this. It means they want to find what? The y values. So what is it? Domain, x values, range, it's y values. Just remember that. Why? Because it's easier for you to always use it for recall. So now let's look at this question here. It says we need to find the domain of f, meaning the x values of f. So if you look at the graph here and we are looking at the graph of f, you can see that the graph of f is starting from here, which is, if you look at, remember, it's the values of x. X is continuing this direction, and you can say x goes to infinity. And then again, x is continuing these values. You can see that x goes to infinity, but this side is called negative infinity. So you can write like this to say on the domain, x is an element of negative infinity to positive infinity. Or you can just say x is an element of real numbers. They will allow, this is the simpler one. X is what? X is an element of real number. So the answer here can be x is a what? An element of real numbers. Okay, so that is the first part. Let's move on. What about the range? Now they're looking for the range of y, meaning for graph of g though. The range for the graph of what? Of g. So let's look at that graph. If you look at the graph of g here, you can see now we're looking at the y values. You can see that the y values, where are they starting from? They have a starting point. Remember I told you about the asymptote. They are starting from what? From -4, but the y values, they are starting here. They will go up all the way. You see, they are continuing all the way up to what? Up to infinity, but they are starting from this point, from -4. So you can see, or you can write that they start from, that is y is an element of -4 is the starting point, and then where do they go to? To infinity. Or you can write it like this: y, remember when you are going up, it's greater than, so you just say y is greater than -4. Okay, so that is the answer here. You can write y is greater than -4. But what is this line -4? I already told you, this is the asymptote. Okay, these are the what? The asymptote. So that is where the graph will never go below. You'll never see y going below that -4. That's why we are saying y can be greater than -4. All right, so let's move on to the next question. The equation of the asymptote of f. You see, they're talking now about the asymptote. So we look at the asymptote of f. The asymptote of f, let me just erase some of the things. Now you look at this graph. This is f, and then you can see that it's ending at what? At -3. Now if they're asking about the equation, you know the equation starts with what? With y is equal to. But now where is it cutting? It's cutting at -3. Y is equal to -3. So that is the answer there. So you come here and say y is equal to -3. So that's it. And then says show that the value of a is 3 to the power -1. So here you come back and see the information that they've given you. They are saying we need to show that the value of a, what is a? Remember, this is f of x is a to the power x minus 3. So what we can do here, we can actually show that the value of a here. Let me just do it here. So what you can do, you are like f of x, remember we're given f of x is equal to a to the power of x minus 3. But we have a point here, you see? That point is what? It's a, and then that point is -2 and 6. And then remember, these are x values and these are y values. You now substitute. Remember, what is f of x? F of x is the same as saying y because it represents the y values. Alright, so here where there is y, you can write now and say 6 is equal to, now where there is what? X, you write a to the power negative what? 2 and then -3. Alright, so now you have to solve this now. Now you take -3 to the other side of the equation. You have got 6 plus 3 is equal to a to the power -2. I see that. Now what is 6 plus 3 is 9, but 9 is 3 squared. Don't forget, is equal to a to the power what? -2. Now it's exponents, guys. You have to solve for exponents. I need to get rid of -2. I multiply by the what? By the inverse. You multiply by -1/2. Remember, so to get rid of that negative is that, to get rid of 2 is that. What I do on the left, I do on the right, times -1/2. And when you do that, cancel there, you have got what? 3 to the power of -1 is equal to a. This is what they wanted here, to show that a is 3 to the power -1. Alright, let's go on. 4.3 says determine the coordinates of C. Let's go on and look at this part. Okay, it's also something that you need to remind yourself when they are looking at the coordinates of C. they told us something about C here. They said C is the what? C is the x-intercept. Alright, so the moment they say x-intercept, when you say x-intercept, you must know y is equal to 0 every time. X-intercept, y is equal to 0, which means if I say to you y-intercept, what are you gonna say? For y-intercept, you must know x is equal to 0. Okay, but now we're looking at the x-intercept. So if y is equal to 0, it means f of x, or it can be f of x is equal to 0, or it can be g of x is equal to 0, because look at it, both graphs are meeting. It can be f of x, it can be g of x. So we're going to look at which one is easier. But the way I'm looking at the graph here, we can use any. We can definitely use any. So let's say we want to use g of x. So here we're going to say g of x, let's use g of x, is equal to minus 4 over x minus 4. Now what did we say? We are saying at that point for g of x, because it's the intercept, g of x, which is y, it is equal to 0. Alright, and then after that what you do, you solve for x. So I can take this to the other side, which is negative. Now it becomes 4 over x is equal to what? Is equal to negative 4. Now I need to get rid of this denominator. You see x is at the bottom. What do? You multiply by x on both sides. So multiply by x, multiply by x. Okay, so that I can get rid of that fraction. So I've got 4 is equal to minus 4x. And then it's multiplying minus 4x. I divide by negative 4. Divide by negative 4 on both sides. Guys, it's algebra now. Negative 4 divided by negative 4. What do we have? We've got minus 1 is equal to x. Right. So which means this point here, the value of x is minus 1. But we know the value of y. We just said the value of y was what? Was 0. And this question, what is it saying? It says we need to find the coordinates. So you can see that x is what? Is minus 1. And then y is what? Is 0. Are you seeing that? So that is the coordinate to say here for C, x is minus 1, y is equal to 0. As I said, you can try it with using using this one. But what about if you wanted to use this one? So it was going to be 0. Let me try to write it on top and see if it works. It was the simpler one was the first one. 0 is 3 to the power of negative 1. Remember, they did tell us here. We solved it to say a is 3 to the power negative 1. So it's 3 to the power negative 1 bracket. It's better to put the bracket than x minus 3. See that? And then you solve for x. You take 3 to the other side. So you've got 3 is equal to 3 to the power. Now minus 1, this will multiply. It will be 3 to the power negative x there. Now same base, there is a power there. So it means what? 1 is equal to negative x. So how do you find now x? Divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1. Then when you do that, the negative cancels. Therefore, your x is equal to minus 1. Just like we did here. I think that doesn't matter in this case as long as you are saying the intercept. Alright, so let's move on. Write down the values of x for which g of x is greater than f of x. Now greater means g of x here, g of x is on top of f of x. So let me show you how you approach this one. What you do, let me just erase everything. I hope I have the answers in the other side. Now when they're saying to you, you mustn't stress it. When they're saying g of x is greater than f of x, and I told you at that moment g of x must be on top and f of x must be at the bottom. These are graphs. All right, so you look at the graphs, you follow them, you just follow the graphs, and you're asking yourself, in which area is the graph of g on top of the graph of what? Of f of x. Let's start it from the bottom. When I start from there, you can see that the graph of g of x is not at the top, it's at the bottom, because the graph of f is the one that is at the top, but this one it's not. It is at the bottom. It is at the bottom. It is at the bottom. It's only this one that is at the top. You see here. You understand? But now look at this point. I just wanted you to look now. Look at this interchange here. Look at the interchange here. You will start to see that the graph of g of x starts going on top, and then the graph of what? F of x starts going down. Look at the difference. This one goes there and this one is going there. So now it is what? It is on top, and then this one is at the bottom. You understand? So where will it go? It will continue to be on top from that point. Remember we mentioned that this point, what was the value of x here? We said x was -1. You still remember? So it will continue here, it will continue, it will continue until it reaches almost that point. That is 0. So the values of x is this from -1 here. This is the distance. You see that? So the question was what? The question was, write down the values of x. You see? So those values of x is what? From -1 to 0. That is the values of x where, sorry about that. This is the values of x where this graph can go on. It will never go beyond. You're going to ask yourself to say, is it going to go beyond the y values and cut? No, because why? This line is an asymptote. This graph will never cut this line. It will never cut this line. Are you with me? It's an asymptote. It can go as close, but it can go up to that. And then the highest point, or the point of the x value that it can only reach is x is equal to what? Is equal to 0. So now when you're writing it, it's simpler. You come here and say, the graph is from x. Okay, you write it like this. We say it is starting from what? From -1 is less than, because we have got -1 and 0. So how do you bring this together? You say -1 is less than x, because they use the less, and x is less than 0. We are starting from negative going towards positive. Are you with me? Or you can write it like this. X is an element of -1 and 0. They allow even if you write it like that. Are you with me? Now we're moving on. Determine the equation of the straight line through AC. How many marks? 4 marks. The straight line through AC. Now they're talking about the equation of a straight line. Remember the equation of a line? What is it? Y is equal to mx plus c. They want that equation. So now they want the straight line through AC. So let me just take off some things here so that we can make sense. So if they're saying straight line through AC, they're saying there is a line from here to there. Okay, but we know the coordinates of C. Remember, what are the coordinates of C? We know that C is -1 and 0. So I can come here and what? And now come with an equation. So what is the equation? Remember, I've got 2 points. A is what? -2 and 6. And then C is what? -1 and 0. Now you remember, first of all, I told you the equation of a line is what? Y is mx plus c. So we need to find the gradient. And you know how you find the gradient? M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You still remember that. So it's up to you here. You can make this one x1, that one y1, this one x2, this one y2. So when you're finding the gradient, you're going to say y2, which is 0, minus y1, which is 6, over x2, which is minus 1, minus x1. You say minus 2. So it's minus 2. You can use a calculator. It's easier. So, but I'm going to work it out here. It's negative 6 over, this is a positive. So minus 1 plus 2, it's 1. So the gradient there is negative 6. That's my m. But please verify that with the calculator. Alright. So it was 0 minus 6 minus 1 minus 2. Now to find the equation of a line, we are saying y is equal to mx plus c. But what I discovered is they did give you the formulas here. So let's check on the formulas. You could have used here on the formulas. Their state is y is mx plus c. So you can use either this one or you can use that one. There is the gradient. So they were very generous. They even gave you the gradient. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we are going to use both and see whether it gives us the same answer. So I prefer the first one, y is mx plus c. Now you can choose any point. To me, this is the simpler point. It's just this negative 1 and 0. So that is y, which is 0. You substitute. Now we are finding c now. Alright, so I'm going to use this point to find c. 0 is equal to m, which is negative 6. And then what is x? X is minus 1. And then plus c. See? 0 makes things easy. Now minus 6 times 1, it's 0 is equal to 6 plus c there. And then take this to the other side. Negative 6 is equal to c. Alright, so from here, what we need to do is to find the value of, we are done actually. When you have done this, you write the equation of a line. Y is equal to m. What was m? Minus 6, and then x, and then minus 6. Then that becomes the answer here. And as I said, you can use this equation, y minus y1 is equal to m bracket x minus x1. Stay in the formulas. So you can choose any value. Let's say now we choose instead this one now. Let's choose this one. Doesn't matter. Alright, so this will become y minus y1 is 6 is equal to m, which was minus 6 bracket x minus x1, which is minus 2. Are you seeing that? So it's better to just say x here, it becomes a plus. So x minus plus 2 there. So what you have is y minus 6 is equal to minus 6 x minus 2. Alright, and then when we work it out, we continue to work this out. It's just that here, when you're working with this equation, you just need to be careful with the algebra. So it's y minus 6 is equal to, you open this bracket, you open that bracket. So it will be minus 6x. Now negative 6 times negative 2 is plus 12. Alright, so now, am I right? It was x minus, I think I made an error here. It was x minus minus 2. There is that negative and there is that negative. So x minus is that one, and then minus 2 on top is this one. So that's where it becomes a plus. So here I think it's a plus. Let me correct that. Alright, so when you've done that, it becomes 6 times negative 6 times x is minus 6. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 12. Then from there, that's why I'm saying you must be careful with your algebra. Take this to the other side. We've got y is equal to minus 6x minus 12. Negative 6 becomes plus 6. And then y is equal to minus 6x minus 6. Minus 12 plus 6 is that. And then you can see the two answers are the same there. Alright, So let's move on. That is the equation. Now the next one, they are saying 4.5.2, the axis of symmetry of G with a negative gradient. Now the axis of symmetry of G. Now if they're talking about the axis of symmetry, let's clear again here. You see, G, this is the graph of G, remember? Our graph of G, if they're talking about the axis of symmetry, there is a line here, just that G is not complete, but they're saying, they gave you a hint with a negative gradient. Remember, the line which is a negative gradient is like this. See, so there is an axis of symmetry, but the key thing that you must know, it must pass through that asymptote. Alright, so now, for the first time, if they give you a graph like this, let me just take you from the original so that you can see where it's coming from. If you were given a graph like this, and the graph was y is equal to a over x, right? And then it happened that that particular graph was in this quadrant and in this quadrant, like the one you are having. If you say what is the axis of symmetry with a negative gradient, it is this line like this. Alright, that is the axis of symmetry. The other axis of symmetry, it is that line like that. Those are the two axes of symmetry. So this one is called y is equal to x. That's the equation of the axis of symmetry. And then the other one, this one is equal to, if you are to do it, this one is y is equal to minus x. Are you getting it? But now, on this graph, you can see that this graph went down by minus 4. So now if you're writing the axis of symmetry, because it's negative, you're going to say y is equal to, you maintain this minus x here, minus x, but because it went down, how many steps? 4 steps. And when you go down, it's negative, so it becomes minus 4. So that becomes the answer. So you've got here y is equal to minus x minus 4. Right. And then the last one is if AB is a horizontal line. Let's look at AB. Calculate the length of AB. So we come here. They're asking now for AB, which is this one. Let me make it thicker. AB, this one. They're saying if it is a horizontal line, calculate the length of AB. But now, for us to calculate the length of AB, we are also forced to find this point down here of B. You see? So what I need 2 points. I need these 2 points. I know already that this point is minus 2 from where? From here. Remember, this is x. So here x is minus 2, but I need the other x value here. So what I do, I come back here to say I need actually the coordinates of B. And when I find the coordinates of B, then I'll be in a better space. Now, for me to be able to find the coordinates of B here, so that I can what do I mean? So that I can be able to find this distance, because what I need is this particular distance here. This distance. There is a hint. Now, you will also see something that if I continue this line for B here, they share a common point, and that point is 6, that particular 6. So when y is 6 on A, y is also 6 on B. It's a horizontal line. So you can come here, you see, let me just take off that line. We've done that line, right? So you can come here on B. Remember, B is the graph of G. So you can say here on the graph of G of x is equal to negative 4 over x minus 4. On this graph, we have got point B, which we don't know the x value, but we know the y value as what? As 6. You see? So this is our x, this is our y. But don't forget, g of x is equal to y. So we come here and substitute where there is g of x, we put that 6. is minus 4 over x minus 4. You see, that's how you find the x value. Take minus 4 to the other side, it's 6 plus 4 is equal to minus 4 over x, which is 10 is equal to minus 4 over x. Guys, it's algebra now. How do you get rid of x here? What do you do? As I did previously, when it's a fraction like this, let me take it a little bit down, because some of you get confused now. When it's a fraction like this, you multiply by x over 1, the inverse. So you multiply here also by x over 1, so that you can get rid of that fraction. I've seen that. So what do you have? You have got 10x is equal to minus 4. Then how do you do it? 10x, 10 times x, divide. Remember, 10 is multiplying, so the only thing you can do is divide. Divide both sides by 10. So what is x? X is equal to, if you simplify 2 there, it's 2. 2 there, it's 5. Is equal to minus 2 over 5. Alright, which is equal to, in a way, 5. If you use the calculator, you press ST, 5 into 20 there, it's negative 0.4. Alright, so I'm doing that so that I can separate easily. So here you've got minus 0.4. And I told you, you're just finding that distance. And distance is not negative, distance is positive. So you can just ignore the negative signs. So if they say, what is the distance AB? You can say AB, therefore AB is equal to, just ignore the negatives. It's same as saying 2 minus 0.4, which is equal to what? Use a calculator, is 1.6 units. Okay, that's it. Or if you wanted to work it with the negative, you're supposed to say negative 0.4 minus 2. Then it was going to give you that. But it's not necessary. Ignore the negatives because you are dealing with what? They just said calculate the length. This is distance. It doesn't have a negative or a positive. So guys, that was the first one. When we're looking at this, 19 marks. Moving on to question 5. It says in question 5 here, consider a quadratic function h with the following characteristics. The axis of symmetry is the y-axis. Okay, so we have got the axis of symmetry, and those axes of symmetry are the what? Are the y-axis. Then we have the x-intercepts. Remember I told you about the x-intercept, y is equal to 0. Then they give us the two x-intercepts here. Here, y is equal to 0. Alright, and then lastly, they are saying what? The graph cuts at what? At the y-axis, and those y-axis there is x is equal to minus 8. And then say sketch. That was interesting. Sketch the graph of h on a system of axes. Then it says clearly show all intercepts with the axis. We're going to come back to this. Let's try to sketch this graph. It's not complicated. It's just the wording that they use. So what you do here, the graph looks like this now. You are used to this graph. It's a common graph. It's a common graph. It's a common graph. So you have got something. You need to have your cardinal, your x and y intercept. So you've got y-axis. It's very important. You've got x-axis. Are you with me? From here, they gave us something. The axis of symmetry is the y-axis. So guess what? There is my axis of symmetry. I was supposed to make it dotted, you know, like this. But let me just make it solid. This is like my axis of symmetry. Are you getting that? Of this graph. Okay. And then they are saying the intercepts. Remember, the intercepts is the way to cut the x-axis. So it's gonna cut the x-axis at what? At minus 4. And then equally it's gonna cut the axis at 4. Why? Because this is the center. If it's cutting at minus 4, I think it's not equal here. It must cut somewhere here, so that this becomes the center. From 0 to 4 and 0 to minus 4. That is the axis of symmetry. And then the graph casts the y-axis at what? Negative 8. So you come here and say, okay, somewhere here, that's the graph. You've got what? You've got now your negative 8. So you see that? And then you can draw now this graph. It wasn't a complicated graph. So you are having a graph like this. See? There is the graph that you are having. So the question was clearly show all intercepts with the axis. So someday this was fine, but you can write it also in coordinate form. It's also fine to say minus 4, 0 here. Here you can say 4, 0. And then here, remember x starts with, you start with x, y is negative 8. Are you with me? So this is the graph, and the midpoint there, the center, is the line of symmetry. Now let's continue. Determine the equation of the graph in the form of hx is equal to ax squared plus q. So what did they give us this graph? They want this graph to be ax squared. Let me write it down here. That is 5.2 now. To say h of x is equal to ax squared plus q. Now what you need to know, this negative 8 is q. So you just need to know that. That's where it casts the y-axis. So here we can simply say q is minus 8. So we can continue and say h of x is equal to ax squared minus 8. It's a given. That is your q. Q is equal to that. You just need to know. Alright, that's where it casts the y-axis. And then you can choose any point now from here. You have got lots of points. I always avoid negative. Let's try that point there, 4, 0. So I'm going to use the point 4, 0. And you substitute it here. Remember, this is x and this is y. You're going to substitute it here to say h of x is your y. So what I'm going to have is here 0, where there is y, is equal to a, which is what I want to find, and then x squared is 4 squared. I think that minus 8. Are you getting that? Take 8 to the other side. So it will be 8 is equal to 4 squared is what? 16a. Divide by 16, divide by 16. So you've got what? Here, a is equal to 8 over 16 is 1 over 2. Are you getting that? So now what is the equation there? H of x. You have the equation h of x is equal to a is 1 over 2. You see? 1 over 2x squared minus 8. As I said, guys, you did it. You could have chosen any. Someone will say, what if, can you try it? Let's choose this one, this value, to say we have got 0 minus 8. I'm just trying to show you. Then again, we have got h of x here is equal to what? Is equal to ax squared minus 8. We already established that q is 8. So here, this is your y, this is your x. Alright, but I think this one won't work now, because let's try it. Negative 8, yeah, it's not going to work, because it's going to be saying a 0 squared minus 8. Then this becomes 0. So you'll have minus 8 being minus 8. So this one won't work, but the other one, it was going to work. This one minus 4, 0. Let's use that one. Minus 4, 0. This one was going to work. So this is your x, this is your y. So we've got h of x, which is this, is equal to a, then minus 4 squared, you see that, minus 8. Then we've got 8 is equal to 16a, and a is equal to 1 over 2. Why? Minus 4 squared is 16. So the answer was going to be the same. Alright. Next one says write down the values of x for which h of x is less than 0. Now we come back to this graph. Be careful now. Less than. Now if they are saying h of x, let me write it down here. I'll use red. If they say h of x is less means smaller than 0, meaning here it is negative. Okay, smaller than 0 means go and look at the graph where the graph is negative, because this one means smaller. Okay, smaller than 0. What is smaller than 0? Is negative. So go and point out in the graph and show us where is the graph negative. So you look at the graph, it's here. It's negative from here. Let me use a thicker line. Yes, you see this graph is negative because it's what? It's below. Negative means it's below. It's negative up to here. Are you getting that? So between this point here, this graph is negative. Between this point. And they are asking the what? Write down the x values. And you can see the x values. They start from what? From -4 to 4. So what are those x values? You just write this. X is an element of -4 to 4. But now they say it less than or equal to. So you use the square brackets here. We're going to use the square brackets like this, because it's included, you know. But I think the best way you can write it is like this. -4 is less than or equal to x. X is less than or equal to 4. This is the best one. Alright, for writing that point. And then that was 5.3 here. Alright, that is the best way when you're writing this, is -4 to 4. So yeah, or yes, that is the best. I think that's the best way. To me, this is the better way. -4, because you're starting from negative, is less than or equal to. Why am I saying it? Because they also use less than or equal. They used a sign of, doesn't matter whether it's greater than or equal to, but they used equal to. So you also include equal to. That's why I was talking about the square brackets. Alright, because you are in the -4 is included and the 4 is included. 5.4, write down the equation of k if kx is equal to minus hx minus 6. Now we know what is h of x. H of x is equal to what? Is equal to, it was 1/2, that was our a, x squared minus 8. Still remember, we found it somewhere here. 1/2 x squared minus 8. That was h of x. So now they are saying kx, k of x is equal to minus h of x. See what they're saying? Minus 6. So which is equal to, then look what you do. H of x, you say minus, you put a bracket, 1/2 x squared minus 8, because that is the h of x. It's minus this and then minus 6. Don't forget this bracket, because this negative must impact everything inside. So what you have is, open now with this negative. This negative will change there and this negative will change there. So it will be minus 1/2 x squared, negative is positive 8 minus 6, which is equal to now k of x. So the trick there was the bracket. It's negative 1/2 x squared plus 2. Then that becomes the equation. Alright, so that's it, guys, and then that becomes your 10 marks on the graphs. Okay, I hope this also clarifies some of the questions you're having, but that is that part. Okay, now let's move on. We're looking now at what? We're looking at financial maths. Finance. Now question number 6. It says here, Amy needs to buy a new computer. The computer costs what? 7,990. Amy does not have the full amount of money available, So she decided to enter into a hire purchase. Keywords. Okay, buy a new computer. So this is the price. She doesn't have the full amount, so she had to enter into a hire purchase. HP agreement. The terms of the agreement are as follows, and they give you 15% per annum simple interest. That's our I there. Okay, 48 monthly payments. That's our N, but our N must be in years. Don't forget that. And then monthly processing fee is that. Now determine the monthly amount payable, including interest and fees. So now let's write the information given. What is the computer costing? Now let's go to the formulas first. When you're looking at the hire purchase, let's come to the formulas, because once they give the formulas, they'll give us everything. This is the formula for the hire purchase. Hire purchase is simple interest. There, this is simple interest. Okay, so A is P bracket 1 plus NI. So let's use that formula here. P, okay, P is equal to A, am I missing this? A is equal to P. Okay, so that's the part I'm missing here. A is equal to P1 plus NI. Then I need to write, you see, when you miss out your A, P, NI, that's where this whole thing is gone. So if you are buying a computer, it's as good as credit here. You see, the computer is costing this. Let me use this. The computer is costing 7,990, and you don't have that money, so you want to buy it. So which means when you are borrowing money here, you are borrowing here. Okay, it's as good as you are borrowing what? You are borrowing 7,999. The person who's borrowing you the money, he expects more money in the future. He expects profit. You agree with me? Because he's borrowing you what? 7,990. So obviously you are not going to return 7,990 after how many months? After 48 months. He expects his money to be more. So which means when you come here on the formula, A is the one that must be bigger than P. So you're starting with your principal here. That becomes the starting point. So our P, the money that you're borrowing, is what? Is your 7,990. You just have to be careful. Why? Because A, which is the future value of P, A is future. It must be bigger than what? It must be bigger than P. And then what else do you have? We have got your N, number of years. It's 48 months, you divide by 12. Very important there, which is 4 years. We deal with years. And then what about our I? Our I is equal to 15%. And what do you do with 15%? Per annum. So you divide 15 over 100. Don't forget such simple things. I is 0.15. If you miss out on this, then your answer becomes wrong. Then we can write now to say A is equal to P, which is 7,990, 1 plus N, which is 4 times 0.15 here. Like this. And then we can get the answer. Definitely we have to use our calculator at this stage now, which is 7,990 bracket 1 plus 4 and then 0.15. Do that and then close that, which is 12,784. So now it's 12,784. I hope it was not 94. I think I said 84. So just correct it if I made an error. So guys, this 7,000, this money here, after how many years? After 4 years. The person who borrowed you the money expects you to give how much? 12,784, which is fair. But now they are saying determine the monthly payment you're going to pay. Remember, you're going to pay for 48 months this amount for 48 months. So how much are you going to pay for 48 months? So it means for 48 months, we divide now. We are going to take 12,784. We divide by 48 to see what is your monthly payment of this money. So we say 12,784. We divide by 48. I said please be careful of this amount because if I made an error on it. So it's 266,33 here. 266,33. You'll be paying this amount every month, but they say there is a monthly processing fee of 13 rand 50 every month. 13 rand 50 every month. So we are now going to include the processing fee, which is monthly. So what are you going to pay now? You are going to pay every month 266,33 plus this processing fee every month of 13 rand 50. Okay, remember they are in business of profit. So now let's look at the total amount you are going to be paying per month. So it's 266,33 plus 13 rand 50. How much are you paying in total? You are paying 279,83. This is now the money you are paying. Right, every month. So that's it. That becomes the final answer. Alright, so the monthly payment you're going to pay is that one. Alright, so let's move on here. I have to erase this. Okay, let's take off this. Let's go to the next one. It says 6.2. On his 29th birthday, here, John invested 5,000. So let's start there. John invested. You are investing, meaning you are putting 5,000 in the bank. You expect it to be more in the future. All right. In the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, his shares increased, you see, by 20%. There it is. Compounded month annually. The moment they say compounded, you must know the formula. It's compound interest. How much will his investment be worth on his 60th birthday? 5 marks. We go to the formulas. For compound interest, we check compound interest. There it is. Here. This is compound interest. A is equal to P1 plus I to the power of n. So that's the formula we're going to use here for John to say A is equal to P1 plus I to the power of n. Now we have to identify our A, P there. Since A is future, he started with P. This one is easier. Your principal, how much is he starting with? He's starting with 5,000. Okay. And then what is the interest rate? They're telling you, they told us, is 20%. And you know what to do? It's 20. We divide by 100, which is equal to 0,2. What about our n? They told us our n here. He started on his 29th birthday, and then he's going to finish on the 60. So it's simple. 60 minus 29, which is equal to what? 31 years. So these shares have been there for 31. So because it's like 30 here, 60 minus 30 is 30 plus 1 there. Alright. So now we put this in the formula. A is equal to P, which is 5,000. 1 plus 0,2 to the power 31. It was not complicated, guys. They gave 5 marks, but I don't think it was complicated there. And then we want to see how much this 5,000 became after 31 years. 1 plus 0.2 to the power of 31. It became, this is a lot of money, 1,424,257.88. Just mark it. I might not be able to write it correctly there. It's 1,424,257 It's 142425788. 142425788. 1424257,88. I hope I captured it. And we're talking about money. 1,424,000. It's 1,424,257 rand 88 cents from 5,000. Can you believe this? 5,000 after his 31st birthday, his shares were more than 1 million. Well, with good fortune, it's possible. Okay, so now we're done with this. We're done with this financial maths. Now we are going to look at what? We're going to look at we're going to look now at probability. We're done with this. Now we're going to look at question number 7 here. We are wrapping it up with question number 7. It says for two events A and B, it is given that probability of A is 0.25, probability of B is 0.89, and probability of A and B not happening is 0.05. Complement, meaning A or B not happening. Start calculate the probability of A or B, meaning A or B what happening. So this one was simpler. So 7.1.1 here. So probability of A or B, which is what? Which is happening, is equal to 1 minus probability of A or B not happening, which is equal to 1 minus what? 0.05. And then what you get that? If you use a calculator, it will be 1 minus 0.05 is what? 0.95. This is the probability of what? A or B happening. And then they are saying, are the two events mutually exclusive? Justify your answer there. 2 marks. Are these two events mutually exclusive? Mutually exclusive. Here I will say no. That is 7.1.2. I will say no. But how will I justify that? Now I will say no. Why am I saying that? Are the two events mutually exclusive? Justify your answer. The two events are not mutually what? Exclusive. Because look at this. I think the best one is to justify, to say probability of A plus probability of B. You see this one? Is not equal to probability of A or B. Let's justify that. Now let's look at it. What is probability of A? Probability of A is 0.25. Probability of B is 0.89. Let's look into that. 0.25 plus 0.89 now is equal to, it must give us what? The one that we have, 0.95. But you can see that it's not equal. If you just add, you can see that it's actually more here. If I say 0.89 plus 0.25, see it's more than 1 already, which is what? 1.14. 1.14 is not equal to 0.95. So that is no, they are not mutually what? Exclusive events. Alright, so let's, okay, I think I need to keep these answers so that they will be helping me going down. Now calculate probability of A and B. By the way, we have formulas here. Let's look at this. We have formulas here and they bring in here, let's check. There it is. Look at this one. We're going to use this one here. Probability of A or B is equal to probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A and B. So we're going to use that. So if I come here and write and say here 7, okay, let me use something different. 7.1.3. we are saying probability of A or B, right, is equal to probability of what? Of A plus what? Probability of B minus probability of A and B. You see this? Now, what are we looking for? We are looking for the probability of A and B. So we're looking for this one. We are looking here for this one. So you can see, let me take it so that I don't confuse. It's minus. Let me take it to the other side. And probability of A or B comes to this side. Meaning I'm making probability of A and B the subject. So probability of A and B, see what I'm doing, is equal to probability of A plus probability of B. See, it was negative, now it's positive, but this is positive. It will become minus probability of A or B. If you wanted, you could have put the numbers here straight away like this to say probability of A or B. We found it. It was 0.95. You could just put it here to say 0.95 is equal to probability of A, which we have as 0.25 and the other one is 0.89. Here you can put it straight away, 0.25 plus 0.89 minus probability of A and B, see, and then you make it the subject of the formula. But me, I went straight away to say here it will be equal to probability of A, which is 0.25 plus that 0.89 minus that, which is 0.95 straight away. Let me see if I did the numbers correct. It's 0.25, 0.89. Yes, you see this, so that I get my answer correctly. This is probability of A and B. Now my final answer, probability of A, I'm using the short version for and, will be equal to, now that's when I have to use a calculator, which is 0.25 plus 0.89 minus 0.95. Then it's what? 0.19. See? So in a way, if I can just show you kind of a picture here, you are saying if I have, let me kind of have this. If I had a Venn diagram here in my sample space, and I have that, and I have that, this space, see, that is the space A and the K. By the way, I didn't label. This is my A, this is my B. This is my sample space, which is equal to 1 probability. So here A is equal to 0.25, B is equal to 0.89. This is probability. But here is your 0.19, A and B, your 0.19. Are you getting that? A only, there is A only. If you wanted A only, it was going to be this one, probability of A. And then B only, it was going to be that one. Are you getting that? Now let's continue. And then says, what is the probability of event B only? You see, now they are bringing that B only. So since you are interested in B only, here you are interested in B only, that, remember B is 0.89, so probability of B only, what do you have? You have got 0.89, then you subtract that 0.19. Are you getting that? Because here there is this intersection point. You need to take it off. B only is that side. Okay, so if you subtract that, and then it's what? 0.89 minus 0.19, it becomes 0.7. Alright, that is the probability of B only. Did I do it right there? 0.89. minus 0,19. Yes, 0,7. Okay, so that is that. Probability of B only. Are you with me? So that is that part. Now we continue. In a small, okay, let's take this off now, because the question is now different. Oh, it's a different question. Now we're wrapping it up. This is the end. We're done. We're done, guys. Hold it there. In a small town of what? This is a small town of 1,500 people. There are two main banks. At savings, we are gonna call it AS, and multiplier bank, we are gonna call it MB. So those are the two banks. Most of the people in the town, what do? Most of the people in the town bank with one or both of these banks. So some they bank with at savings, some they bank with multiplier bank, some they bank with both. Two of these. Now there is the numbers. 600 people bank with what? AS. 950 people bank with what? MB. 235 people in town do not use either of the bank. They don't bank at all. There is the question. 7.2.1. Draw a Venn diagram to illustrate the information given. 4 marks. So let's look into this Venn diagram here. Okay, so let's make it big enough. I like it big for such, so that we have enough information to put. So we've got this, and our sample space, they told us how many people in this small town. 1,500. So we have got 1,500 people. That's our sample space. Okay, then here I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna have that. My circles are not as good as I want, but they do the job. Alright, so we said there are two types of banks: at savings, AS, and MB. So we have got AS and MB. I'll start with the one that is easier. 235 people in town do not use either two banks. So where do you put those people? Outside. 235. They don't use either. But they never told us the people who use both banks here. So we're gonna say let the people who use both bank, let the people who use both banks be what? Be X. So we're gonna put X there. Alright, and then how many people are using what? At savings. 600 people bank with at savings. So here you remember the grill. 600 minus what? Minus X. How many people use the multiplier bank? 950. You remember the grill. Again, 950 minus X. You must subtract the intersection point here. You must subtract that point. Are you with me? So now, how do you solve it? From here, I solve it like this. To say 600 minus X plus 950 minus X. It must, okay, plus 235. 235. You add everything. Okay, so now let me pull it a little bit further and give it also here a little bit further. It must give us everything here of 1,500. Okay, that's how it works. So we've got obviously minus X plus X always goes. So we add that to say 600 plus 950, okay, plus 235 equal to 1785. So 1785 1785. What? Minus x, don't forget that, is equal to 1500. So for x comes this side. 1785. This one goes this way, minus 1500. See, it was positive, now it's negative. X is negative, it becomes positive x. Now we find out what is that. 1785 minus 1500 is 285. 285 is equal to x. Remember, this is part of your working. You're including all this. They said find the what. What was the question? The question was draw a Venn diagram. So this is part of drawing the Venn diagram. Now you can simplify this Venn diagram here, like you put it like this. Now we have the final Venn diagram, can be smaller now. Okay, this is the final Venn diagram. My sample space doesn't change, it's 1500. And then in here, I remember I had that and I had that. Let me make it a bit this. We have got AS, you have got MB. Still remember? Now you start to work it out. 600 minus x, you know what is our x. Our x now here, we got it. What was the value of x? We said it was what? 285, remember. So you write here now, our x is 285. Now what is 600 minus 285? 600 minus x. So you say 600 minus 285. Just be careful with your numbers. 315. 315. That's what they wanted. This is the final thing they wanted. Your 4 marks is here. Then again 950 minus x. So you've got 950 minus 285. What do we get? 665 here. And then outside you've got what? 235. Now to prove that you're correct, add all the numbers inside. It must give you what? 1500. So let's add everything just to see that we never made errors. It's 315 plus 285 plus 665 plus 235 equal to 1500. This means this is the answer that they are looking for. Here, when they say what? Draw a Venn diagram to illustrate the information. So you start, it's better to start from here going there. You start, this is your start. And then this is your final. Alright, then you do that working. Next question. What is the probability that a person from the two towns uses both banks? Both. Now they're telling you. What is the probability that the person uses what? Both. And we know what both means. Both is that line. Remember, we just talked about it. Both is the center. And the probability, so you do this to say P probability, we call it AS and both means and MB. It's AS and MB. Or you could have said probability of both if you wanted. It's still fine. So this is equal to what? 285 over your sample space. Now there is a formula here. Probability of A is number of A over number of S. You see there, this is the formula actually. Probability of A is number of A over number of S. So if I can write it for you here to say so it was our probability of, okay, but that's not the one we wanted. That one, A and B. Let me not complicate it. So it's 285, which is number of A over the number of the sample space, 1500. That's what I was trying to bring still. Then when you do that, what do we get? It will be 285 over 1500. And then it's get 0.19. Alright, so that is the probability of people using what? Both banks. Last one, what is the probability that a person from the two towns does not use multiplier bank? They don't use multiplier bank. Remember, when you say does not, so what you can write it like this. Does not means probability of MB complement. They do not. So you come here. There are two ways of doing it. Actually, I'm here. You come here on your diagram. Remember, they said what? Does not use multiplier bank. So who here is not using multiplier bank? Look at this. Let me use this. Okay, those who are using multiplier bank, look at them. These are using multiplier bank. You see, they are using multiplier bank. So who does not use multiplier bank? You can see them. They don't use multiplier bank. They don't use multiplier bank. They say what? Probability that a person does not use multiplier bank. The center ones, they use multiplier bank and AS, but the ones who don't use anything to do with multiplier bank are those. So you can come here and say, okay, I add them. Let's add them. What was that question? Question 7.2.3. 7.2.3. Okay, so how many do not? Do not is equal to 315, right? Plus what? Plus 235. Alright, so let's find out. They do not at all. They do not use that bank. It's 315 plus 235, which is 235, 315, 550. They do not. So what is the probability? Probability of MB, as I said, complement is equal to 550. They do not over 1500. Okay, and then which is equal to, and then at that moment you are going to say here 550 over 1500 equal to 11 over 30. You can leave it as 11 over 30 of 0, I think they said 2 decimal places, 0.37. So you can leave it as 11 over 30. That's the probability. Still fine, which is equal to 0.37. That is one way. Or you could have done it like this. You could have said probability of MB complement is same as 1 minus probability of MB. See, probability of not banking with AB is 1 minus probability of banking with MB. Remember, total probability is 1, which is equal to 1 minus. Now, what is the probability of banking with MB? MB, as you can see, this is our MB, which is 285 plus 665. So, which is 285 plus 665 of our sample space. Don't forget our sample space. So it's the same thing I was adding there, but now I'm just doing it once. I added 550, then after that divided by 1.5. So I'm just doing it as one thing here, which is equal to 1 minus. So in a way, I'm saying you add 285 plus 665, you get that 950. Oh, actually it was 950. So we are saying then 950 divided by 1500 equal to, you see, it's 19 over 30. So you're saying 1 over 19 over 30, which is equal to, then you find 1 minus 19 over 30, 19 over 30. It will take us to 11 over 30. See, over 30, which was the same answer that we got there. Alright, so guys, this is the end. This is the end. This is the end of this question, 100 marks. I hope you guys were benefiting or are benefiting from this revision. In the next session, I'm going to look at paper 2 of the same paper, which was what? Which is, okay, I asked about the rounding off. They said 2 decimal places, so this was very important. So it was fine when I said 0.37. But as I said, this paper was November 2022. It was from Gauteng province, and it was a good paper. I think it was actually a challenging paper for a grade 10. If you revise though, you prepare yourself better. Guys, if you're not subscribed, that's the time to subscribe. Okay, so that you can be able to follow up every time I post new videos. I'm gonna post even more quick revision tips and then some errors that you must look out for. So keep subscribing to the channel. You won't go wrong. We've come to the end of our lesson. Thank you.